Have you ever known the right thing to do, but felt the pressure to do something else? Not because you lacked judgment, not because the facts were unclear, but because the room or the incentives were pushing you towards compromise. I spent more than 20 years working inside environments like that. I'm Julian Blair Baldwin, author, leadership advisor, and founder of Cohere Leadership Group. My work is built on the simple belief that we have one life and the values that guide our decisions should remain coherent across the many roles we play. The modern world rewards fragmentation. It pressures people to becoming different versions of themselves across roles, rooms, and relationships. One self for power, one for approval, one for survival, one for home. And over time, you can't answer a simple question without checking which version of you should answer. That's a problem I care about. A lot of leadership content talks about communication, influence, and executive presence. Very little of it deals honestly about what pressure does to identity. Very little of it asks what it takes to remain whole when conformity is rewarded and conviction carries a cost. That is what this channel is for. Here, I'll talk about coherence under pressure, the hidden cost of fragmentation inside organizations, trust, integrity, and moral clarity. What happens when systems reward optics over truth, and how to lead without losing yourself. I'll draw from lived experience, hard-earned lessons, and the work I'm building across my book, speaking, and broader platform. If you are trying to lead honestly and think clearly and remain whole in a world that keeps asking you to split, you are in the right place. This is not about performance. This is not about image. This is about coherence. One life, one standard. Leadership is not defined by what you say about yourself. It's defined by what people could consistently observe. Organizations often evaluate leadership through results, presence, influence, and execution. However, your people look at something more basic and revealing. Whether you tell the truth, whether pressure changes your character, whether you treat people with dignity, whether your private behavior matches your public language, that is a harder standard, not softer, because the question goes from are you successful to are you respectable? That shift has changed me. It has made me think less about image and more about example, less about what I can justify in a room, and more about what my daughter would say if she studied the pattern of my life. Leadership starts to break down when people feel pressure to become different versions of themselves in different environments. That's what I call fragmentation. One self for the boardroom, one self for the team, one self for home, one for survival. And over time, the private self starts to disappear. I've seen this happen in real operating environments where the facts pointed one way, but the politics, fear, and pressure push people another way. What causes it is usually not lack of intelligence. It's pressure. It's ambition. It's the instinct to protect your place. It's the slow adaptation that teaches people to perform alignment instead of live it. And the long-term costs are real. Trust erodes, judgment gets weak, decision making slows, people start making safe decisions instead of truer ones. And eventually, even high performing teams begin to feel brittle because too much energy is being spent managing perception instead of facing reality. That's the hidden cost of fragmentation. Values are only real when there's a cost attached to them. It's easy to talk about values when nothing's on the line. The real test comes when you have to choose between optics and truth, results and people, convenience and alignment, belonging and conviction. I've been in decision environments where the best path was clear from the facts, but not from the politics. And that's when you find out what's real because people do not experience your intentions. They experience your decisions. They experience what you will protect. They experience who absorbs the cost. They experience whether your stated values survive contact with pressure. That is the gap to pay attention to. The distance between what the leader says and what that leader actually protects. Parenthood changes leadership by making the consequences of your behavior harder to hide. Before becoming a dad, it was easy to think about leadership in terms of performance output, advancement, and responsibility. However, parenthood introduces a different question. What am I modeling? Not what I am saying, not what I am achieving, but what am I normalizing through the way I live? That shift matters because legacy is not just what you leave in assets, accomplishments, or reputation. It is what you build in another person through example. It is what you model, what you normalize, and what you pass down. That is the part that shaped my book, Tazori. The book began as something personal, but underneath it is a serious question. What does a child inherit besides a name? My answer is this: it's principle, clarity, dignity, and a standard. And since becoming a dad, that question has sharpened for me because children do not care about your org chart, they do not care about your compensation plan, and they do not care about how well you perform in rooms that they will never enter. They will watch how you handle pressure. They will watch how you treat people. They will watch whether or not you become a different person when there's something at stake. And in many ways, that's the clearest test of leadership because leadership does not begin and end at work. It lives in conduct, it lives in restraint, it lives in how you carry responsibility when there's no applause and no formal evaluation. So here's the question that I come back to. If your child was reviewing and studying your life closely, would they respect it? Would they respect the way you lead? Not admire it from a distance, not benefit from the outcome, but respect it. If that is a question that creates tension, don't run from it because that tension may be telling you where the real work begins. One life, one standard.